Hi, in today's video I want to talk about constraints and how those constraints can change the way that we work, create and innovate. Okay, why I want to talk about this is because I think there is a really specific moment in history that we are living that we are not realizing how we are giving ourselves constraints that are not there. Okay, and these constraints that we give ourselves are actually changing the direction where we are going. Now, it's really important to understand constraints because constraints on one side are really amazing for creativity. Having limits means that you need to innovate and think outside the box to go over those limits. That is pure creativity. Okay, but at the same time, some constraints actually block our vision. Okay, we kind of stay in here and we don't see outside them. So being aware of the constraints is extremely important. Some, like I said, we can put them ourselves. Some are there by default because of our life, where we're born, the time where we're born, and our culture, and so on. Okay, so there is a lot of elements interacting with each other. Now, from the creative point of view, it's extremely important to have the agency in the sense that you need to put them yourself so you can actually create. For, let's say, business and technology, it's a really weird one because most of the time the constraint is, of course, society, the money, the business, but also is our imagination. Okay, it's how we see reality. It's not just I don't have imagination. Okay, it's also how I imagine something, and that something is actually my limit. It's the limit of what I can think. So to explain this properly, I want to explain you how I do it with music. Now, it feels like disconnected, but it's really a really good example because creativity in art, in creative music, is actually really evident. It's really amazing how constraint can just create something incredible. Now, I make music with this instrument. Okay, this is called modular synth. Okay, so modular synth means there are a lot of different boxes that you plug together to create sounds. This is already a constraint, okay, because you can make sound with not analog gear, but with the digital, like the computer that I have over here, that you can do whatever inside the box, okay. That is already a constraint that I choose. It's something that I need to spend time by plugging and thinking. So creating a sound that you create it from scratch. Okay, if you don't plug anything, there's no sound. So that is already the world that I decided. So it comes together with a series of constraints. But now the element for me is, okay, what kind of project shall I do? What kind of idea shall I have to actually create music? So I came out with this idea that I call it temporal immersion. And the idea is to go back and revisit the pioneers in the music electronic from last year, from last century. Okay, so the idea is to go back to this experimental moment where the electronic just started. Okay, so people didn't know what to do, what kind of music, what kind of sound would be possible to create and generate with this technology. Why I do this? Because I want to somehow force myself to become creative with what I have. So the idea is, I go back there. It's called the sonic method acting. Okay, I go there, pretend to be one of them in that moment in history, with their reality, with their limits. But then I need to translate their technology with mine. Okay, so what they could do, I'm gonna try to recreate with my machine. So that is a kind of a technological limit. But then I put other layers, like the kind of music they were doing and the moment in history they were living, so the fears, the dreams, and so on. So I'm going to try to relieve this. This is the constraint that I'm giving myself. Now, I started this project and I wrote down 20 different artists that I want to look for. Those are not the super mainstream one, I'm more like the one that the history talk less. Nevertheless, some of them are well known, but it's not evident. Okay, some Sometimes there were like artists that they were from a country that are not European or American, therefore they've been talked less about them. Sometimes were women, and at the time they were basically not allowed to make music, so they would do it in the background. So I'm going to look into this kind of people and discover their massive constraint that they have, and try to relive and recreate. So the first one is that I'm gonna look for is this person called Oskar Sala. Okay, stay with me because this is important for understanding. It's not just about music. Okay, so Oskar Sala has this instrument called Trautonium. Okay, which was completely different from the electronic music that we have today, but also from what they had at the time. Okay, the difference was that this instrument had a ribbon to play. Okay, a ribbon is like a piece of string that you could tune by moving your finger on this ribbon. So it looks like, for example, a piano that you have the low and high keys, but without the keys. So it's like a constant. So this constant change of pitch is much more similar to what you have, like, for example, of a cello. Okay, so those cello can change in position on the string. You change the pitch, and then with the bow you play the level, the volume. Okay. So on this ribbon, you would press more and get more level. But you could also shake your hand and create vibrato, similar what you do with the bow. So, sorry, with the cello. So it had some elements that come from the classical music. Then you have those human, really high human way to express sound on an electronic music instrument. So something that I don't have here. So my idea is, okay, now how can I do this? How can I recreate this constant pitch changing and this vibrato, this human interaction with what I have? That is the beauty of the constraint. So I give myself that constraint, and now I start thinking, how can I do it? And I found an amazing solution. So I use the joystick. So where you have the x-axis, you have the pitch. And then on the y-axis, you have the amount of vibrato. But then I have another controller that when I press it, it's gonna increase the level. So now I have two controls that are different from the ribbon that is kind of long, okay? So you have a lot of space to tune, but now I have this single joystick, which is really hard to tune. So what I gave it to a quantizer, basically something that helped me to find the right note really quickly. So it's gonna stop at the right note. But then I need to add another element that would create a kind of glissato between the notes. So I would hear, it would stop at the right notes, but it will get there, it wouldn't go there directly. So all those thinking, and trust me, this patch is pretty complicated, so I'm just not telling you everything. But all those elements that I need to think about, that was the innovation. That was me being a pioneer again. And it was instant. I gave myself constraint. I tried to go over those constraints. I became a pioneer. I became someone that was innovating and creating instantly. So that is what I want to tell you. It's how fast we can turn into creative minds. Okay, become back pioneers. Why this is important? Because in this moment in history, where we have AI, and basically it's the same thing, okay? It's a new technology, nobody knows anything about it, even though you have so many experts online, but nobody really understands. This is new, so it's about experimenting, okay? It's not about telling what to do, it's about experimenting with this thing. So this channel, it is about this. It's reflecting and experimenting with AI. So the speed of becoming innovators is in our hand. We can do it. Okay, it's all about understanding what kind of constraint we have and have a vision of what you want to achieve. Now, let's talk about this vision. Okay, in AI, the vision we have, this clever vision we have, is to recreate a human-like intelligence. That is the constraint that we give ourselves. So there are billions invested to recreate this. So what this constraint push these innovators is creating an AI that is mimicking human. Because in reality, it's not needed. It's an idea that we had that needs to be similar to human. So if it feels like human, it's probably intelligence like a human. So all this imaginary vision, okay, of I want an AI to be like human, it creates the problem of now we have an AI that pretend to be a human, that pretend to have empathy, that pretend to understand us, to the way that they talk and so on, always agreeable. So there is a lot of elements that are there because we had created ourselves a constraint that push us towards have an AI, from my point of view, completely upsetting and completely not useless because it's too much, okay? But you know what I mean, okay? The AI that I'm building, the one that I'm customizing, it's an alien AI. It's something that has nothing to do with me. And it's a fight because the AI want to, how it's programmed at the moment, is to want to pretend to be this human-like intelligence. No, I don't want it. I am the human. I have my own human-like intelligence. Okay, I need something that thinks different. I need something that is opposite of me. So I can see things that I couldn't because I am a human, and the other thing is an alien intelligence. So this is what I'm saying. So because I have this vision now, I want to create an alien intelligence. All my work, it's connected to that thing. So part of it is to stop, of course, the system, the LLM at the moment, they push really to pretend to be human. So the AI that I'm building try to stop their behavior, which is a struggle. But at the same time, it's trying to think in a different way. It's trying to think as without the human limits. Therefore, because of this, I can leverage on the part. Okay, I can leverage on the system itself to produce output that are more useful for me. So this is what I wanted to share in this video. Okay, the idea of how constraint can change the way that what we build, and therefore the obvious question now is, okay, what are your constraints? What are the ones that you put yourself to be more creative, and what are the ones that actually are part that you are somehow transparent, that you don't look at? Okay, you think they are not there, but they are there. And this is important for creatives, but also for any kind of innovators. Okay, so if you are a creative, think about this deeply. Give yourself some limit. Okay, you're a painter, use 3 colors, one kind of, so just give yourself some limit, and then within that limit, do something amazing. If you are an entrepreneur, this is much, much different. Okay, we as an entrepreneur, we have this idea of, I don't want any limit. I want it all. Okay, I want to achieve the best. So the idea is every limit is something that is going to stop you from creating something amazing. But like I said, you see, you have some limits that sometimes are not yours. So find them and remove them and place the one that belongs to you. Okay, and sometimes are ethics, sometimes a vision, like my one is I want to create this alien AI. I want to have an AI that I can trust. I want to have an AI that is going to protect me from other AIs. Okay, and now sounds like this is conspiracy theory. No, in the sense, for example, an AI means the social media algorithm. Okay, the advertisement, all those AI that try to somehow manipulate my thoughts. So I want an AI that protects me from that one and check everything and say, look, this advertisement is trying to do this to you. Okay, now you bought this new modular because you saw this advertisement, not because you need it or not because you want it. Okay, so I need, I say this because it sounds like a really, really conspiracy, but I think we are going into a direction where every single interaction we have with the social network, in somehow behind it, there is an AI that has an agenda, which is the agenda of, say, you more on the social network, to buy something, to buy some product, to think of something, to vote for something. So for me, it's gonna go into a direction where we as a human, we can't control it. So I want an AI to do this for me. Now I'm just going in a different direction, but those are my constraints, okay? Those are the constraints that I give myself to innovate, to create the AI that I want. And in music, those are the other constraints. So I give myself constraints so I can do something that inspires me. But most important, on every single time that you give yourself constraints, means you give yourself an opportunity to become a pioneer, to become an innovator, to become someone that is gonna create something. And trust me, it is instant. That is the beauty. It's instant. You do it, you give your constraint, now you need to go around, you need to turn on your brain and say, how do I do it? Okay, and start to do it and go into details. Okay, now the video could stop here, but I'm gonna tell you some details because it's important to understand the amount of details that you can go deep. Okay, so as going back to the sound, now I have a way to play the instrument in the similar way that this Oskar Sala was playing his instrument. But then I start thinking how the sound would sound like in that period in history. So think about the technology, the speakers that they had. They have not the same quality of the one that we have today. Okay, today we have this extremely wide range of frequency, extremely precise dynamic. So they are kind of high quality, okay, hi-fi. But at the time, there was the first kind of speakers. They were not that good. They wouldn't have super low frequency. They wouldn't have super high frequency. The dynamic wouldn't be so precise, and they would distort. Okay, create a distortion. So kind of always saturated. They had a tube inside, so the sound was more or less always saturated. And in some video, you can see this Oskar Sala playing that when he pushes, you can see the system going into distortion. So me thinking about this, then it's going back here and say, okay, I need to filter some frequency, I need to add saturation, but the saturation that change with the different level. So everything is connected. Now I have a complex patch there that does all those things. And then when you play and you think about being back there, it's just beautiful. It's really a temporal immersion, and on one side I'm really proud, and I still need to make the right music. So now I'm experimenting and play around with this instrument, but I become a pioneer in a second. I loved it. That's what I learned. This is what I wanted to share with you, and what you should do is think about. What is your constraint? What kind of constraint you can put it, the one that are there you haven't looked at, and let me know in the comment below. If you like this kind of content, first of all, thanks for staying until the end, and like and subscribe.